can go live.
Are we on?
I think so.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. I hope you can see us. This is the awkward bit of the live stream where we say, are we live yet? And we wait for someone to tell us that we've gone live. So if you could just bear with us while I wait for that confirmation. And I'm going to press record at our end as well so that we can cut this bit out and separately.
Perfect.
That's the plan. I'll wait for confirmation and then we'll get started.
Your face says it all, Alice. It says it all.
The stress. I was just saying to Preeya that like normally you do these sorts of things, you've got like a whole team. Well, it says there's a live stream and 8 people are watching.
Oh, perfect.
Yes, I think we're all good.
Winner.
Excellent. Fantastic. Okay, great. So welcome everyone to our first chat with an author, Parents Voice Book Chat. Today we've got Dr Preeya Alexander, who's a GP from Melbourne and a mum, and she wrote a great picture book called The Rainbow Plate. And so we're here chatting with her about the book and the motivation and love of vegetables, which everyone knows that I'm a big fan of veggies, professionally, unprofessionally. And so maybe, Preeya, if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself to start us off.
So, well, I think you've kind of nailed it for me, which is I'm a mum. I think that's probably my biggest title. So I've got a 4-year-old daughter and I've got a 7-month-old son, or a soon-to-be 7-month-old son. And I am, like you said, a GP. So I work in metropolitan Melbourne, and I also training GPs as well. So I'm what we call a medical educator. And then I have kind of a social media and media profile where I try and battle health misinformation and health myths and, you know, spread evidence-based information to try and make people more health literate, I should say. And then I wrote this book, Rainbow Plate, which we're going to chat about. And so, yeah, I wear a few hats, but I think at the end of the day, I'm probably a mum and a doctor is what I would just simply say to make it easier.
As well as I should have mentioned that people can find you on Instagram under the Wholesome Doctor.
Yeah.
Where you give amazing general advice, but also share your life. And I think that at the moment, while we're all in renewed lockdown here in Melbourne, that sort of stuff's really important to show the reality of life. And I'm showing some of it here with my workspace. This is it tidied up too. I did my best to make myself look quite professional for this chat. So I think, you know, we've got to be sharing those bits of our lives to assist all of us to get through all of this.
Agree. Absolutely agree. I think keeping it real right now and saying to people it's actually okay to not be okay, because this is a fairly tough lockdown. I think that's important. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So what was your journey then to coming, like what was the bit that made you get to writing a book?
So it's actually interesting. So I basically wrote this book just on a whim. Like as a GP, I talk to heaps of parents about, you know, dietary stuff for kids. So that's a big part of my job, you know, introducing solids and fussy eaters and my kids constipated. How do we get more fruit and veggies in? You know, even raising difficult discussions around obesity in children. You know, that's my job as a GP. So I do a lot about, you know, food and kids. And then, you know, I became a mum and I was like, oh my goodness, I actually probably didn't really get it before, because once you're actually in the trenches, you're like, this is hard. This is much more difficult than people let on. And that's when I basically started talking to my daughter about rainbows, and it worked really well with her. And I also did it with patients, and it just became this thing. And then I started to see more and more kids and parents being like, you know, you were recommended because of the, you know, parents said you might be able to help. And so I penned this book kind of on a whim, Alice, and then a family member really pushed me to go, you need to do something with it and not just have it sitting on your laptop. And so that's how I came to Rainbow Plate.
So I'm kind of getting good goosebumps. The idea that you can have this idea and then it becomes like What was
Yeah.
that feeling like when did you open a box and there was like a stack of books?
I did. And it was just surreal. You know, when you kind of go, this is an actual book, people might actually read this. Even today, when I get people on Instagram being like, we love the book, and send pictures of their kids, I'm like, I can't believe people read it. Like, it's me. Like, but it's surreal holding your own book. And my daughter will be like, can we read Rainbow Plate tonight? I'm like, yes, we can. Read it 5 times tonight.
Yeah, I'll read it all night long. I know how to play you. My son always has big philosophical questions
At night.
Should be going to bed, sleep.
Yes.
Needs to ask me about the meaning of life.
He's a clever kid.
Yeah. So, I mean, you've kind of spoken a little bit about your motivation. What made you think of a rainbow as the idea?
I don't know. Just kind of, it's just kind of, I think probably, you know, for centuries, people have probably done this concept. And I know there are lots of grandparents who bought the book and gone, I did this with my kids. But I think I just actually put it into writing and brought it to life with the illustrator, Annabelle Cutler, who's phenomenal. She really brought that book to life and everything I'd envisioned. But, you know, I think, and I talk to parents a lot about this in the clinic, which is, you know, you can kind of start saying to your kids, particularly younger kids, you need to eat your peas, you need to eat your carrots, and, you know, the green stuff. What about the green stuff? And I try and say to parents, let's try and move away from that language. Let's kind of do a bit more role modeling and eating together and making it fun and cooking together. And let's talk about rainbows. Let's take the kind of, you've got to eat this, this, and this, but talk about making rainbow plates, getting rainbows in tummies. I talk about rainbow poos as well with little kids, you know, because they love poo. I get down to that level and I love it. It's awesome. And so it's kind of, you know, rainbows are fun. Like, kids love rainbows, you know, boys, girls, and it actually quite a diverse age range of kids love rainbows. And so, yeah, it kind of all came together.
I think I still love rainbows.
Yes, me too. Agree.
Universal. And so obviously you originally wrote it and you were talking about it as part of the your work as a GP and your work as a mum.
Yep.
Did you have an idea about the impact you wanted it to have, or did you want it, you know, what was the story there?
So basically this, as this book was kind of about to be released, the Australia Health Report came out from 2018, and it basically said that 99% of kids who are aged 2 to 19 don't get enough veggies, don't get the recommended veggie serves.
Yeah.
So I'm very passionate as a GP about preventative health and also just really simple stuff actually making a difference to health outcomes for adults and for kids. And so, you know, I think there's so much pressure on parents these days to kind of, you know, make Insta-worthy meals and present really amazingly and, you know, throw a birthday party with like a balloon window or whatever. You know, there's just all these pressures. And I just kind of go, you know what, if you can get some rainbows into your kids and take them for a bike ride and keep them active in the lockdown, you're nailing it. Okay, simple stuff makes a huge difference, and the balloons can kind of wait, and the veggies probably can't. So, you know, the impact I really wanted to have is to say to parents, look, rainbows are important. Let's make them fun. The book's kind of fun for parents because there's a couple of gags in there that parents can have a laugh at. It's also not too long. You know, when your kid picks a bedtime book and you're like, oh my gosh, why this one? You know, I'm like, why do we have to read why the 45-page book? But they know what they're doing. So I kind of tried to hit a few targets there, and I just wanted to say to parents and kids, let's make this fun. Let's not be like, let's eat the carrots and the peas and the potato and the broccoli. Let's talk about trees in your tummy and forests and fun stuff, you know?
And you mentioned earlier, like getting cooking with the kids as one of the techniques. Your kids are younger than mine. Do you get them into the kitchen?
I do. And so my son will sit there on the bench and kind of just watch, but I'm like, it's never too young for rainbows. But my daughter, do you know what you have to do? And I'm a type A person, so it's been hard for me, but I've gone, I'll accept the mess. I'll accept that, you know, stuff may not be as perfect as I would like it, but she's in that bowl and she's tearing spinach off stuff. And then when we're eating it, she's saying to me and to Will, my husband, you know, I'm the one that ripped this spinach off. This is me. I made this tuna slice. You know, she owns it.
Yeah.
Get them involved. And we have veggie patches here at the farm property that sadly we can't go to at the moment. But, you know, we've got veggie patches. We grow the stuff. Some of it grows, some of it doesn't. But, you know, there are rainbows everywhere. She's involved at every aspect, which, you know, it certainly has an impact. It's all about making it the norm and leading by example. I was trying to think of the saying, you know, she eats what we eat. I'm not eating a different meal to her, which is what I say to parents. I'm like, your kids need to see you eat the rainbow too with them. Yeah,
absolutely. We've been a very you know, we go up and down with how strict we are around doing other things while we're eating dinner. Occasionally the TV goes on, but we always make sure that we're sitting around that table together and that we're eating a similar meal. Difficulty being me as a vegetarian, the rest of the family is not, but it means I eat more of the rainbow.
That's it. You're the rainbow tummy winner. We call it the rainbow tummy winner in this house, and you're probably the winner.
Excellent. I think I'm going to need a certificate.
Yes, I'll send it to you.
So on that, like, what do you have? So we've been talking about like cooking and getting out in the garden. Do you have any other like winning tips? Like, I noticed you said earlier that you didn't really fully get it until you became a parent, and I think that that's really true. Like, so I've been doing this job for a long time, and even my kids don't eat all their veggies. So my whole job is making sure kids eat healthy, like changing systems and structures so that that's easier. And even I find it really difficult. So do you have any really winning tips?
So look, I think it's important. You've raised a good point there. This is not easy. So there are some days when I think the first thing to say is that no parent is nailing this 100% of the time. And if they're giving you that impression, then they're lying. And the next thing is also that there is no good and bad foods. And this is getting a bit more complex into the kind of, you know, looking at food in a safe manner, not developing these ideas around ice cream is bad and veggies are good. So we say that actually your body needs everything. It just needs it in different amounts. So I think going easy on yourself, but going easy on your kids too. Like my daughter sometimes will have, you know, 2 ice creams in a day. And I used to get really anxious, rigid about it. And now I just kind of go, that's not going to kill her. And she eats plenty of everything else. And you've got to go easy on yourself. But my tips are role model, get your kids into the kitchen. If you've got a small plot of land, even if it's a pot on a balcony, put some basil in there. Get your kid to pick the basil and smell the basil, and can you put the basil in the pasta? You know, just get them involved in the process and make it fun. You know, I know you don't want to talk about poo maybe, but, you know, we talk about rainbow corn coming out the other end. My husband, he loves the kind of the undigested corn stuff. Just, you know, make it fun. And if rainbows help you do it, then go for it.
Yeah, I feel like I've had a question sent through, and I had a small anecdote that I feel kind of segues nicely into this question, because I've worked with lots of dietitians, and you sit around the lunch table, they're always talking about poo, and it's like, I'm just trying to eat my lunch here, and they're fully, but kids love it. Like, they love those conversations. They love it. And I think sometimes we need to embrace that, the child, the fun, the playful bit around all of that. But the question is, so it's come from a dietitian, which is what this is the segue. How do you work with other health professionals to support families around introduction of new foods and similar techniques?
So, well, not so much solids. Like occasionally I'll work with speech pathologists if there are issues with textures and solids, but I certainly work with dietitians a lot for lots and lots of different reasons. Like, you know, yes, kids with, you know, constipation issues, also children with autism spectrum disorder who are, you know, having texture or colour preferences, you know, getting a dietitian involved there, and also speech pathologists is really, really helpful. But yeah, I work with other allied health and other, you know, medical professionals all the time. I guess, you know, healthcare is like that. We're a team, we're a broad team. And so even psychologists play a role, I think, around, you know, mentioning the kind of, you know, the restrictive and kind of body image things as well, but also for children who are anxious, who might have autism spectrum disorder, where food can play a big role in anxiety, especially for parents. They kind of start to dread mealtime. How am I going to get stuff in? Am I going to get enough of the good stuff in? Yeah, a psychologist as well can be really, really helpful.
Definitely one of the tips So we get lots of parents who ask us specifically, and we have general information on our website, and we say, you know, go talk to your GP or get a referral to a community dietitian if you're having, but the big thing is to just not make meals a battle. You know, sit down and eat a meal and have a chat and have
make it fun if you can, and accept some mess. So, you know, my daughter likes making her own wraps or burritos, and it's, you know, there's stuff everywhere and it's stuck to the bench. But I'm like, you know what, mate, if you're going to put your own mayo in there and eat lettuce, tomato, cucumber with some chicken and cheese or whatever, I'm like, go for it. You know, make it fun. Let them have a crack at it. Even a 7-month-old, have a crack, mate. Make some, you know, shove it in there, have a go.
We do lots of like the hard shell tacos.
Yes.
So like they crack and break and it goes everywhere. But I still remember like sitting at the table and like looking over at my husband as the kids voluntarily put lettuce.
Yes.
And I was like, oh my God, don't jinx this. There's lettuce going in the taco, you know, like.
But when you see it, like sometimes I ask my daughter, I'm like, what would you like? Would you like a yogurt? Would you like a muesli bar? Would you like some cucumber and cheese? And she's like, oh, cucumber and cheese, please. And I'm like, okay, sure. And I'm like in the fridge and I'm like high-fiving myself. I'm like, you've done it, Mum.
Absolutely. Oh, I think there's another question coming through. The little dots are appearing.
I love it.
There. We'll give Evie a second. So I think in my family it's a bag of carrots. So the bag of carrots is always in the thing, and my youngest, she's 6, she eats it, she doesn't peel it or anything, she just goes for a carrot. And that was such a win, because I think my oldest is more of a fruit than a vegetable person, and so having a child.
Fruit's great. Fruit, you know, fruit and veggies they're all important. And the other thing I try and say to parents is, because I do talk in the beginning of the book, there's a letter to parents and caregivers about veggie serves according to age as a guide. But I think some people, you know, you can get quite hung up on, you know, actually measuring veggie serves. And I say to people, kind of get a bit of a gist for it and then have a crack. And dietitians have really good ways of actually telling patients how they can actually measure it and document it if you need to. But I just say to people, look, any rainbow is better than no rainbow, but you know roughly how much rainbow you're aiming for. But don't start being like, you need another serve of banana today, because you just start to build this anxiety for yourself and for the child. I'm like, you know, cut some banana and make a fruity face for afternoon tea.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Fun.
Yes, right? Fun. Absolutely.
So this question comes from Angela. Preeya, I work in health promotion with early years settings. Have you ever thought about developing a resource kit for the book for educators to encourage healthy eating with their children and their families?
This is a very good idea. No, I haven't. But could you help me?
Yeah, we'll put you in contact with Angela.
That's a great idea. So actually the book got picked up by a childcare chain who put it in their book of the month. And I was literally going to go in and start talking with, you know, parents and things about, you know, the book, and then COVID hit and it all got kind of shut down, and a few other things did as well. But that's actually a really good idea that I have not thought of. This person sounds very smart.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's a great idea. And in a couple of weeks we'll be chatting with Alice Savleski, who has done the Phenomenon food education stuff. So that's for not for early years, so it's primary and secondary, about incorporating vegetables in all sorts of different settings, like, so, you know, aligned to their curriculum. So what do you do in science with vegetables? So kind of incorporating food, like education around vegetables across lots of different subject areas, which is fascinating. But we're talking to her, this is like a sneak peek promo. She's got a vegetable cookbook coming out in October, which looks amazing. So we're going to be chatting about that. But she's done a lot of stuff from vegetables and education as well.
Yeah.
But not early childhood. So this is a space for you, Preeya.
Yeah, it could be. I feel a bit sad that I didn't think of it myself. I'm having this kind of moment of like, Preeya.
Yeah. Well, I think we get parents who talk to us a bit about food in early childhood settings, because it's not the same as schools where you've got canteens and they're there's guideline, you know, like the food that's provided to your kids is more, you know, it's like it's a bigger meal and all of those sorts of things. It's not an optional thing and you don't have much of a choice. But I know a lot of early childhood educators who struggle with that healthy eating and talking to their parents, particularly once the kids start in kinder and they're bringing their own food in, and it's the first time that parents have had to provide food that gets taken out of the house without you, right?
Yes.
And they can have some really interesting conversations there.
And I think actually that's another thing, Alice, that there can be a real, there's this kind of lunchbox competition and judgment that starts happening, which I just think is so unhelpful. I think there's enough pressures on parents anyway. And some of the time I send my daughter's lunchbox to her ELC and I'm like there's rainbows in there, but I'm like, it's a pretty dodgy looking rainbow meal. Like it's literally a frittata that looks wilted and pretty sad. And there are people who have like these amazing, you know, caterpillar sushis.
I don't have time for that.
No, I don't either. But I just think, you know, there's a lot of judgment. But yeah, I think this person has raised a very interesting point. I'm literally pondering it as we speak, thinking, yeah, there's a real capacity there to make this more, yeah.
Excellent.
Greater learning opportunity, perhaps.
How's this? I'm loving that you've had another light bulb moment here.
Yeah, you've witnessed it.
So Evie, and I'm assuming it's Evie who's sending me these questions, so she's snuck in her own question. But what is your favourite fruit or vegetable and why?
Oh, this is so tricky. My daughter asks me this nearly every second day. I can't, it's really hard, but if I had to choose, I'd probably say lettuce as my vegetable. Why? Because it's crunchy. It's my favourite colour, green. Can you tell I've answered this before? And it's versatile. Yeah. It's so versatile. Yeah. And my favourite fruit is a banana because you can't go past a banana. They keep for long. And even once they're like saggy and about to die, you can use them in a banana bread or a muffin.
Yeah, banana bread. We've got a couple that my daughter is deliberately letting ripen to make banana bread. She's like, I'm not eating those. I'm eating these ones.
Good.
I'm eating these ones.
I like it. I like it.
I'm a mango. I love mango. Which
I love mango.
Because you can only get it fresh in short bits of the year, and I can't grow it down here in Melbourne.
That's true. And it's, yeah, so I've chosen favourites that I can have all the time. But normally when I answer my daughter's question, I could rapidly go in and I'm like, but I also love cucumber and tomato and I really love grapes and I love, and she's like, just one, mummy, just one. So, hence why I knew the answer to those questions, because I get asked it all the time.
Yeah. I think anyone who has kids has a whole lot of favourite answers.
Yes.
Colour, animal.
Yes.
And I think even as an adult, I still buy my parents things that are their favourite animal. And I reflect on it now, like, actually, they probably don't love their animal as much as kids love their favourite animal, but I'm still going with it.
I love it. Just keep rolling with it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I don't think we have any other questions. People, there's dots again. I'm like, everyone get your last minute questions in because we've only got like 2 minutes. 2 minutes. So what we will do to, everyone listening, we will, obviously everyone knows how to use Google to find your book if they don't already have a copy. Mm-hmm. I don't know why they wouldn't already have a copy. Mm-hmm. But we will also, if you subscribe to our email list, we will make sure that we send it out in the next newsletter. There'll be a link to go and buy the book, but also to your Instagram account, because as part of chatting to people about this chat, I've said to everyone that they should be following you on Instagram, because I'm always uplifted, even when you're like, oh, it's a bit of a struggle today. I'm like, yes.
Oh, good. Oh, thank you. I did do one of those posts last night, actually, and my husband got home and he was like, whoa, I saw your post. Is everything okay here? I was like, no, not really. Not really, babe. But yeah, I think it's important to keep it real. And I'm sharing what we're eating in lockdown for people, trying to keep it, achievable so people can get rainbows in. I talk about rainbows to adults too, because I think people, we know from studies that people are drinking more in these lockdown patches, alcohol, perhaps eating more processed food and salts and things, which is fine, but I'm just saying this is another way you can do it with a couple more alcohol-free days and maybe some spinach in there if you've got some.
Yeah, I'm finding decision making really hard. So we've gone with those boxes where they just deliver you the food and the recipes, and I don't have to be on selecting them.
Yeah.
And that's because I'm lucky. Obviously, I'm still working, etc. So I have the resources to be able to do it that way. So one last final question. What is your favorite food question that your kid has ever asked you, or a kid? I don't know if you've got a funnier story about someone else's kid. Go for it.
Just share about other people's. The funniest food question. Oh, I hate to say this, but it does revolve around poo.
Always.
And so my daughter at the moment is obsessed with Doc McStuffins, which I really like because there's a strong female protagonist. Listen to me. I'm going to start talking about feminism now.
So we're big Doc McStuffins fans.
Yes, well, it's a female protagonist and it's a coloured character, which is important to me as a BIPOC individual. So there's all these things, boxes it ticks. And so she's really obsessed at the moment with asking me, how does my food turn to poo? And she wants like nitty gritty details about, and when the poo comes out, and then she kind of wants to know the anatomy of like, and what happens to the bottom when the poo comes, like we're getting into a serious level of detail here, which my husband's is like, do we really need to, is this essential? I'm like, it is. She really wants to know. So just bloody tell her how the rainbows come out. But I feel like it's getting very graphic in our house because she loves being at the nappy change and looking at my son, and he's like, oh my gosh, it's coming out of the hole. I'm like, yes, darling, the partially digested food is coming out of the hole. So I'm sorry to talk about poo, but that's the patch we're in at the minute. That's where we are.
I think so many parents would be with you though. Like, maybe not to the intense level of questioning that your daughter appears to have.
Poor child, because of 2 doctors, she really hears a lot of stuff that she shouldn't probably.
I think we're going to have to stay in contact because my daughter is big Doc McStuffins fan. She's decided she wants to be a doctor, but she also wants to drive a fire truck and build skyscrapers. So there's a few things on the go.
She should be a GP because we can multitask and we have flexibility and it's awesome. So put her on to me.
Okay. Yeah, she can come and ask you all her poo questions.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, so I think on that hilarious note, we've come to the end of our Facebook Live. I've got no last remaining questions. We've answered a few questions, and I really love that you've come and chatted to us about your book. I was thinking we should have got you to do a reading of it, but like we only had half an hour, so it was kind of let's have a chat instead. Yeah. But I did see that you had a little reading of your book on your Instagram, so people should be following you on the Instagram.
Agree. I'll do it again because I'm trying to keep parents I'm trying to chew up 20 minutes of your lockdown time by reading the book and taking kids through the veggie patch. So I'll do it again soon. Oh, excellent. We really appreciate you using some of your precious child-free time to help us be a little bit child-free, but also educate our kids on useful things. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you so much for joining us, Preeya. I'm going to end the live stream. Thank you for everyone who joined us on the live stream. Thanks to Evie for curating it at the other end. I'm sorry we started a couple of minutes late. It was all me and technology. So thanks for joining us, and join us next week. We'll be chatting with, next week we're chatting with Alice Zavleski about her book In Praise of Veg, which comes out in October. So it'll be another vegetable delight. Yep. She loves gardening as well, I think, so it'll all be great. So join us next week, and we'll see you later. Bye. Bye.